The quest for knowledge. Over the millennia since its inception, the cult Mechanicus has been riven, reformed, brought to the brink of catastrophe, and has engaged in conquests that span the galaxy. Calculus Logi labour night and day to catalogue its history, though they disclose it not. Only a handful of events are allowed to reach the annals of imperial truth. Millennium 15 to Millennium 25, the Age of Technology. Although accounts of this era are incomplete and unreliable, it is generally considered to be a golden era of development and expansion as mankind spreads across the galaxy. The warp drive, navigators and standard template construct, STC, technology, heralds this new era of discovery. The first of what will later become known as night worlds are established during this period. Human psyches appear in ever-increasing numbers. Millennium 25 to Millennium 30, the Age of Strife. Mankind's collapse comes with terrifying swiftness. It is difficult to unravel the truth, but tales abound of anarchy, demonic possessions, the coming of the enslavers, and the betrayal of the thinking machines. Warp storms isolate swathes of the galaxy, and those civilizations not destroyed outright are cut off from one another. Many come to know this era as Old Night, and it descends like a shroud over the galaxy. During this time, the night worlds fare best, for they eschew psyches and purposefully regress technology. They grow superstitious and hidebound in their own traditions, while they stand alone in a galaxy besieged by evils. Mars expands. Mars overcomes strife and disaster to unite beneath the cult Mechanicus. As lulls between the waves of warp storms allow, the fleets of Mars travel outwards, raiding for technology and establishing new colonies of tech adepts. With a few exceptions, such travels remain limited in scope and stay within the confines of what will later become known as Segmentum Solar. The Mars Treaty. The Emperor, fresh from uniting the tribes of Terra, arrives on Mars. Many of the tech priests declare him to be the Omnisire, and so the Emperor forges an alliance with Mars. It is the adepts of the cult Mechanicus that equip the Emperor's Space Marine legions. In recognition of the fact that to achieve his galactic plans, the Emperor needs the technological and scientific aid of the Mechanicum, Mars becomes an ally to Terra rather than her subject. Of the countless worlds that the Imperium soon claims, only forge worlds dedicated to the cult Mechanicus are esteemed in such a way. Covetous greed. The night world of Crisis is rediscovered and brought into the new fledgling Imperium. It is the first of many. With unseemly fervour, the Mechanicum uses its influence to claim exclusive trading rights with many of these night worlds. New forge worlds are established near the most mineral-rich planets. All are put to work at maximum capacity, preparing for what is to come. Millennium 30 to Millennium 31, Dawn of the Imperium. The Great Crusade. The Emperor leads a massive crusade outwards from Terra, with the purpose of reuniting the hundreds of thousands of lost worlds scattered across the galaxy. At the fore are the Space Marine legions, supported by the growing Imperial army. All are equipped by the factories of Mars. No less important are the Skitari legions, the Legio Cybernetica, the Legio Titanicus, and the Imperial Knights that joined the expedition. Planet after planet is reconquered and offered the same choice: bow before the Emperor of Terra or be destroyed. On and on the expeditionary fleets push outwards. The tech priests often refer to this time as the Great Expansion, for hundreds of night worlds are rediscovered during this period alone. The Horus Heresy. Like all of the branches of the Imperium, the Mechanicum finds itself rife with corruption during the epic civil war known as the Horus Heresy. Many Forge Worlds and Night Worlds turn from the Emperor. Indeed, the Fabricator General of Mars himself declares his allegiance to Horus. And so begins the Schism of Mars, a bitterly fought campaign that mirrors those taking place across the galaxy. Skitarii legions square off against each other while Titan duels Titan. Those of the Cult Mechanicus that turn to the Chaos Gods are forever known as the Dark Mechanicum. They are hated and feared in equal measure, for they dare to fuse demons with the spirits of their war engines, creating twisted things that mock the Machine God and his true laws of order and reason. The Scouring. Wars of recrimination follow the Horus Heresy. Led by Reboot Guilliman and the Ultramarines, the Imperial forces fight battle after battle, driving the remaining traitor armies back until they finally flee, seeking refuge in the Eye of Terror. The Night Houses, their honor tarnished by the vile deeds of fallen knights, are especially vehement in their pursuit of battles of vengeance. Recognizing the need for systematic change, Guilliman creates the Codex Astartes, and tasks Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Call with a secret task that will align the fates of the ADEPTUS Mechanicus and the Space Marines for centuries to come. Millennium 31 to Millennium 32, Age of Rebirth. The Mechanicum is reforged as the ADEPTUS Mechanicus, and the new Fabricator General of Mars is given a permanent position as a High Lord of Terror. Crippled by his wounds during the final heresy battles, the Emperor is interned within the Golden Throne, a device so complex that only the ADEPTUS Mechanicus can hope to maintain its systems. The Shadow War. An intense paranoia drives the Cult Mechanicus to bury their secrets deep. When the Inquisitors of Terror's New Order take their tithe of data tapestries, they also unwittingly take the countermeasures that will unravel them. Aware of their mistake but unwilling to admit it, the Inquisition devises purge protocols that engage in an unseen battle with the self-replicating deletion programs of the Cult Mechanicus. Though the shadow conflict flares up into several planet-wrecking wars before fading, battles still rage in secret to this day. A new breed of overseer. House Tyrannus begins the practice of sending the nobles that fail to enmesh properly with their imperial knights to the ADEPTUS Mechanicus. Though unfit for a place in Tyrannus' knight armies, each of these cyborg warriors, known as Psychosis Neurocanium, are from Primaris-grade imperial stock and prove to be excellent raw material for the creation of Skitarii overseers. Similar exchanges between other Night and Forge worlds occur across the galaxy. Millennium 33 to 34. The Forging. As the Imperium solidifies its measures of control across key systems, including the adoption of the Imperial cult as the official religion, the ADEPTUS Mechanicus becomes ever more secretive. The Howling. An ADEPTUS Mechanicus explorator fleet clashes with the Cacodominus, an alien cyborg of colossal psychic potential. The horrific creature learns well of humanity and its agents. Within a year, it controls the populace of 1,300 planetary systems. The resultant heresy is ended by a concerted attack by the Legio Cybernetica and their Black Templar allies. Alas, the Cacodominus' psychic death scream burns out the minds of 1 billion astropaths and distorts the signals of the Astronomicon itself. Entire subsectors slide into barbarism without the light of the Emperor to guide them. The Prophet of Cogs. The long-time rivalry between those tech priests who dwell in the north of Mars and those of the Martian south flares into open war. As the conflict grinds on, both sides are assailed by the feral packs of malfunctioning servitors and burnt-out war machines that haunt the desert wastes. The war reaches a gory conclusion, when the self-proclaimed prophet of cogs broadcasts a control chorus that binds millions of long-abandoned machines to his cause. Appalled by the half-living cyber ghouls, he sets on his foes, both north and south, unite to drive him from the Red Planet. Rumors persist that he still haunts the Alpha Centauri system. Millennium 35 to Millennium 36. Nova Terra Interregnum. The time of the two emperors pits many forces of the Imperium against each other, and all Forge worlds are asked to declare their allegiance. The Moray Schism. During the secession of Segmentum Pacificus, the rebel Forge world Moray is destroyed by retaliatory exterminators, but not before the Moray Schism has split the Adeptus Mechanicus in two. The ensuing conflict draws Titan legions and even Space Marine chapters affiliated with the Adeptus Mechanicus into the turmoil. The schism takes a heavy toll on the Adeptus Astartes, resulting in the destruction of dozens of companies and the excommunication of several Iron Hands clans. It takes over 2 millennia of desperate warfare before the Moriat doctrines are considered fully purged. The Fleet Wars. Of all the battles of the Moray Schism, none are so expensive or long-lasting as the prolonged naval engagement over the nebulous space fields of the Gulf of Black Shadows. There, mining wars between rival Forge worlds escalate to massive fleet battles. It is estimated that the wrecks of over 10,000 ships, from mining craft to vessels of war, float between the gas clouds. Yet the battle is far from over, for within the floating graveyards, salvage crews continue the war for centuries, fighting each other in desperate boarding actions, each side seeking to reclaim valued tech. Entire robot maniples are recovered by opposing sides and reprogrammed to attack their former controllers. Millennium 36, the Age of Apostasy. A new age of dissent washes over the Imperium. A growing distrust separates the Adeptus Mechanicus from the Adeptus Ministorum, with each side conspiring against the other. Few records of their internecine battles are ever recorded by the Adeptus Administratum, but each side keeps their own secret tally. The War of Recovery. 12 nightly houses are led by the Adeptus Mechanicus into the Mortuum chain system. The campaign lasts over a century, and many human worlds are freed from Xenos rule. The interfering Eldari are defeated when their own weapons are turned against them. Much ancient technology is rediscovered by the Great Quest. The fact that one of the conquered worlds had already been converted into a shrine world by missionaries from the Ecclesiarchy is hastily covered up by furtive tech priests, who speak only of the triumphant return to Mars of several first-generation STCs. The Xenorite Schism. Stygius 8 comes under attack from dozens of Deathwatch kill teams when news of the Xenorites' dabblings with alien technology reaches the Ordo Xenos. The Adeptus Mechanicus are forced to employ radical measures in order to survive the ensuing purges. Missing from Imperial records. Fearful of the growing record of violations against them, the Forge world of Stygius 8 uses viral programming, machine canticles, and infiltration methods to destroy or alter the documentation of the Adeptus Administratum and even the data stacks of the Inquisition itself. Self-perpetuating programs ensure the obfuscation is continuous. The Cruciad. The northwestern fringe is ravaged by the apostles of the Blind King, rogue tech priests who view humanity as an affront to the machine god. War rages for a decade, but the tide turns when the palace warship of the Blind King is found hidden in a fold of warp space. The Blind King is slain and the apostles overcome, not least due to the efforts of Mars itself and the founding of the heroic Dark Hunters chapter. Millennium 37 to Millennium 40, the Age of Redemption. The Imperial cult gains momentum, and countless crusades are launched. As the Space Marines and Imperial Guard are drawn into more and more campaigns, the Adeptus Mechanicus conserve their strength, focusing their own expeditionary fleets, as well as their manufacturing duties, to supply the Imperial war machine. The Telok Expedition. The radical Magos Vettius Telok leads a foray into the void beyond the Halo stars, in search of the fabled artifact known as the Breath of the Gods. His expedition is reported lost with all knowledge. The Shadow of Silica Animus. Proof is found of dangerous experiments being conducted by rogue cults within the Mechanicus. As the creation of complex artificial minds is strictly outlawed, a search and destroy inquest begins that probes every single Forge World. The War of the Golden Cog. The Fabricator General of Mars claims ownership of the riches of the Fortress of the Soulless, lair of the Culexus Temple. A disastrous civil war between Mars and Terra is averted by a sniper's bullet, but the artifact known as the Golden Cog is left in Skitarii hands. Fires of Conscience. The rogue Tick Priest Viriliad, after leading his Skitarii to a stomach-churning victory during the cremation of Alcadia Secundus, knowingly destroys the STC for Phosphex weaponry. The Makarian Conquests. Led by Mars, Graia and Gryphon IV, many Forge Worlds send armies to aid this massive crusade. Millennium 40. The Waning. With Imperial armies stretched thin across countless campaigns, the Imperium becomes ripe for invasion. Xenos and Chaos attacks increase tenfold, occurring with alarming frequency all across the galaxy. Crushing the Mechawar. Led by House Raven, 5 different knightly houses, along with no less than a dozen Freeblades, halt the mechanized hordes of War Glottok. Across several star systems, the Imperial Knights are able to counter the battle wagons and looted tanks employed by the wily Glottok. It is on the factory plant of Blastum that the war boss's Stomper mob is at last brought into final battle. Leading his exalted court into the thick of the fighting, Greven, the Iron Duke, smashes into the wall of Orc walkers and uses his Reaper chainblade to rip apart Glottok's Stomper. The Stomper's head can still be seen, for it was taken for display and remains at the keep inviolate. Graia assailed. When attempting warp travel, Forge World Graia is assaulted by Necrons and nearly destroyed. The Forbidden Runes. After the disastrous Battle of Elixir, Skitarii survivors are sent to extract the runic inscriptions upon the ancient standing stones of Grave's End. In doing so, they open a long-forgotten gate into the warp. Elixir is consumed by a demonic invasion, its remaining populace eliminated by exterminatus within the week. Millennium 41. The Time of Ending. As the galaxy darkens, new threats appear all across the galaxy. The death of Tyran. A terrible new foe looms from the void. On the far reaches of the eastern fringe, the Adeptus Mechanicus research station of Tyran Primus comes under attack. Despite a stalwart defense by Skitarii cohorts and an entire regiment of Astra Militarum, the planet is conquered and its biomass devoured. Magos Varnak compiles a data codex that reveals the dread truth of the planet's last few hours and fires it into space before triggering the outpost runes of Ending. The Tyranids enter the galaxy. The War of Neotech. The Tau settlers of Vesh-Yo find themselves fighting for their lives against 3 Skitarii legions. The ancient weapons of the Adeptus Mechanicus are pitted against the clean, cutting-edge technology of the Tau Empire. Many additional Skitarii reinforcements are deployed before victory is finally secured. 6 star freighters full of Tau war material find their way back to the Forge Worlds of Tigris. Reign of Fire. After the Battle of Macragge, a splinter fleet of High Fleet behemoth winds its way into the Skitarii-held Dougal Helix. Using the knowledge recovered from the Tyrandator Codex, the Skitarii fight back. The cohort commander, Alpha 9 Thrick, turns the tide by saturating a stratum of the atmosphere with gas from the planet's promethium refineries. After his Omega's neutron laser set the skies aflame, each new rain of Tyranid spores incinerates those Xenos planetside instead of reinforcing them. A triumphalist data codex is compiled and sent to the nearby forge world of Akatran, where it is swiftly filed away in the archive anomalous and forgotten. War-Grax. The brutal juggernaut of War-Grax terrorizes the star systems near Riser. Legions of Skitarii counterattack alongside Catachans and liberated human slaves. Word of the intense fighting attracts War-Guts, which breaks through the Imperial Navy cordon to invade Riser for the third time since the conflict began. The fate of a string of systems hinges upon the Forge world at their heart. The Tyrannic Wars. The Tyranid invasion wreaks havoc across scores of Forge worlds, with several, including the powerhouse of Gryphon 4, utterly destroyed by the Xenos. To punish the usurper. Upon the lodestone world of Nathor, a nation of feral humans worships their orc slavers. When the nearby forge world of Greia learns that one of the orc rocks is built around a fabled Arch Mechanicus, it sends forth its legions. Within a year of the travesty coming to light, both Xenos and human alike are scoured from the planet, and the salvaged pieces of the Arch Mechanicus borne reverently back to Greia. The Unknowable. Skitarii from Styges 8 are sent to the Diluvian-class world of Magog, when the planet's industry dries up its oceans to reveal Necron-tier architecture. The Skitarii fight valiantly against the Necrons of the awakening Tomb World complexes, allowing the planet's island of people to evacuate. Only the commanding tech priests, hunting for knowledge behind the lines, escape the ensuing carnage. However, in doing so, they clash with Trazine the Infinite. One by one, the tech priests are collected in stasis fields and displayed as part of a monument to Magog's fall. Ultimate Power. Clues to the location of the Omnicopia are uncovered upon Hell's Teeth, a demon world on the edge of the Maelstrom. The Omnicopia, an arcane device that contains every STC with a psychic component, is of immeasurable value. Many billions of Skitarii are dispatched to Hell's Teeth with all haste. The entire Adeptus Mechanicus across every Forge world takes notice. Should the legendary Omnicopia be found, they will finally have a way to control, precipitate, and even weaponize humanity's psychic dawn. The Fall of Cadia. The 13th Black Crusade devastates much of the Cadian sector and spreads disaster across the whole of Segmentum Obscurus. Despite heroic fighting, Cadia falls. Many refugees from the numerous campaigns find temporary safety on the Forge worlds of Agrippina and Styges 8, where their numbers help repel the chaos attacks that soon follow. The loss of dozens of titans, fleets, robots, and entire armies is a devastating and irreplaceable blow. In the wake of the disaster, the High Lords of Terror themselves decree that all Forge worlds are to increase production by any means necessary. A Primarch awakens. In news that ripples across a galaxy riven by war and splintering with warp disasters, the Ultramarines Primarch, Reboot Gilliman, is awakened. Although Xenos are rumored to be involved, the Adeptus Mechanicus claims sole responsibility for the deed that brings back their avenging sun. The Great Rift. Warp storms of a magnitude not seen since the Age of Strife rack the galaxy. Every Forge world is cut off from its explorator fleets, and, for a time, from each other. All suffer invasions and raids as emboldened Xenos and Chaos forces test them, probing for weaknesses, eager to destroy the bastions of mankind's empire. No fewer than 7 Forge worlds are destroyed altogether, and several more remain missing, buried beneath fierce and impenetrable storms. The Secrets of Kor. Upon the orders of Primarch Reboot Guilliman, Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Kor begins to unlock the secret vaults and awaken from stasis the many armies of the Primaris Project. An entire new founding of Space Marines is born. Storm of Metal. All across the Imperium, primary holdings, from mining colonies to night worlds to forge worlds, find themselves under attack from Necrons. The influx of chaos energies has triggered anti-warp protocols in every Necron tomb world, and things that have lain dormant for eons stir once more. The infamous Technomandrites, struck down by the Silent King, return. Panic rises amongst the tech priests, for they are already besieged from without, and the Necron threat is coming from within. Duels without honor. The fallen Knights of House Black, not seen since they escaped into the Eye of Terror during the Great Crusade, return. The fell knights are seen across hundreds of battlefields, appearing as if from nowhere to ambush the forces of the Imperial Knights. Indomitus Crusade. The initial blackness that blanketed the galaxy after the Great Rift was torn open finally lifts. In the aftermath of the Noctis Eterna, many crusades are launched. Although there were several successful campaigns, none could claim more triumphs than the Indomitus Crusade. From Terra, Reboot Guilliman musters a coalition, in addition to Archmagos Belisarius Kor. Mars sends many Skitarii legions, maniples of the Legio Cybernetica, and several lances of knights from House Tyrannus. Over a dozen other Forge worlds sent supporting fleets as the expedition crosses the galaxy, and many night worlds prove eager to join, none more so than the vengeful House Krast. The Crusade's many victories bring a glimmer of hope to the darkened Imperium. However, once Guilliman leaves, returning to aid Ultramar, the remaining forces splinter, the campaign losing impetus as factions return to protect their own home worlds. War of Slime and Metal. Metallica is besieged by the plague hosts of Nurgle. The 3rd and 7th plague companies of the Death Guard, Chaos Space Marines, the corrupted titans of Legio Morbus, are no fewer than 7 fallen night houses. Only the arrival of the entire House Raven staves off defeat, and only with the aid of a war fleet from Deimos is the attack finally broken and the demons banished. The Adeptus Mechanicus unleashed. With the Imperium reeling from the disastrous effects of the Great Rift, Mars commands all Forge worlds to ramp up production to unprecedented levels. They churn through raw materials and servitors as never before, and vast armadas are launched to strip entire star systems of resources. The Forges must be fed at impossible rates in order to supply the endless war material required. Warzone Ultramar. At the urgent call of Reboot Guilliman, over a dozen Forge worlds, including Mars, Risa, Metallica, and Triplex File, send reinforcements to Ultramar. There they aid the Avenging Sun's armies in defense and counter-attack against Chaos Renegades and the Death Guard. The Rustfields War begins. In their greed to claim natural resources to fuel their factories, a coalition of Forge worlds led by Mars and Graia sends mining fleets to exploit the vast belts of asteroids known as the Rustfields. Although its interior has never been explored, its exterior is incredibly rich in all manner of metals, minerals, and promethium seas, a tumbling horizon of asteroids that stretches across 3 sectors. Soon after operations are begun, however, it is discovered that greenskin clans rule the interior of the Rustfields. So begins a great war that draws in untold numbers of additional Imperial forces, as the Adeptus Mechanicus fights to retain its foothold. Bane of the Forge Worlds. Although there are many theories, none understands the reason for the Necron attacks upon Forge World territories, as well as Archmagos Belisarius' call. Both sides are seeking deposits of the strange material from which the Cadian pylons were fashioned, and many Adeptus Mechanicus strongholds have been erected upon sites containing this precious resource. Call sends his own agents, armies of Mars and House Tyrannus, across the stars in an effort to combat the growing danger, and hundreds of battles are fought as more and more Forge Worlds are drawn into the conflict to aid their beleaguered brethren. Even those tech priests that begin to understand the reality of the dire situation are loath to call upon their Imperial allies for fear of being branded heretics.